1. We're checking out this 1971 Chevy El Camino I found on Craigslist, and I've got to be straight with you. It's a mixed bag that needs some love, but it's got potential. Listed at $15,000, let's break down what we're looking at here. This El Camino is rocking a 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission. And I've got to say, the mechanical side seems pretty solid. The seller just proved its reliability by driving it from Newport Beach to Moreno Valley without any issues. That's a serious testament to its running condition. No overheating problems, which is always good news for these classics. Now let's keep it real. This isn't a show car. The seller's being upfront about needing some body work and a fresh paint job on that black exterior. The carb could use some attention too, but hey, that's pretty typical for a car of this vintage. The odometer shows 60,000 miles, but it has rolled over, so keep that in mind. What I do like is that all the trim pieces are present, which is huge for these classics. There are no rips in the interior, and it's got good brakes and tires. It was originally a factory AC car, though the AC isn't currently working. Again, pretty common for a car from '71. For $15,000, you're getting a running and driving piece of American automotive history that needs some cosmetic TLC. It's got a clean title and current registration, which is always a plus. Is it perfect? Nope. But it's a solid foundation for either a restoration project or just a cool classic driver as is. 2. We're checking out a really special find on Craigslist, a 1972 Ford Ranchero Squire that's got me pretty excited. This one's listed at $18,500, and let me tell you why this car-truck hybrid deserves your attention. First off, what makes this Ranchero special is its originality. We're looking at an unmodified Survivor with its factory 351 Cleveland 2 V open-chamber engine. That's getting harder to find these days. The seller's clearly been meticulous with maintenance, having replaced or rebuilt numerous crucial components. New radiator, heater core, thermostat, brake system components, and a freshly rebuilt carburetor. The automatic transmission was just serviced and is shifting smoothly. That's music to any classic car lover's ears. The interior is particularly impressive, rated at a 9+ out of 10, which is exceptional for a 50-year-old vehicle. The exterior paint, while not perfect at a 7 out of 10, is still very presentable for a driver. And speaking of originality, it's still wearing its original California plates. Some nice practical touches include the new tonneau cover, custom car cover, and rubber bed mat. The air shocks and trailer hitch add functionality without compromising the stock appearance. The AC needs a recharge, and the clock doesn't work, but honestly, that's minor stuff for a vehicle of this age. What really stands out here is the accident-free history and tight body. That's huge for these classics. The current owner seems to have taken great care of it, and it's clearly a reluctant sale. We've all been there with the "wife says it has to go" situation. 3. We're looking at a 1976 GMC Sierra K20 that just popped up on Craigslist for $8,900. And I've got to keep it real with you about this old workhorse. This is a classic square body with the legendary 292 straight-six engine paired with a manual 4-speed transmission, a combination known for its reliability and torque. The seller's added a 4-inch lift and new 35-inch tires, giving it that classic lifted truck stance that these K20s wear so well. Now let's be honest here, this is a 49-year-old truck, and the seller's being pretty straightforward about its condition. There's rust in the bed and here and there, as they put it. I appreciate this kind of honesty in a listing. The seller even mentions that photos can be deceiving and encourages in-person inspection, which is always a good sign. The good news is it runs good, according to the seller, and these 292 engines are known to be nearly bulletproof when maintained. The clean title is definitely a plus, too. At $8,900, you're looking at a classic 4x4 that needs some TLC in the rust department, but could be a solid project truck. These square-body GMCs have a strong following, and prices have been climbing for clean examples. The seller's no-nonsense approach, no trades, no lowballers, no emails, suggests they know what they have and are looking for serious buyers only. 4. We're checking out something pretty cool on Craigslist, a 1981 Ford E150 that's got quite a story to tell, listed at $5,000. Let me break this one down for you. This is a classic Econoline powered by Ford's bulletproof 4.9L straight 6, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission with overdrive, a combo that's known for reliability. The seller's proof? They've driven this beast to Alaska and back, plus cross-country trips without issues. That's some serious road cred. Now let's keep it real. It's a 42-year-old van showing its age with some bumps and scratches, and the odometer's rolled over at 106,000 miles. But here's where it gets interesting. The amount of recent work done is impressive. New clutch kit, upgraded alternator, fresh brakes and bearings all around, rebuilt carb, new vacuum lines, a 3-core radiator, and all new door and window seals. They've even thrown in a modern stereo system with an amp. What makes this van extra special is its partial camping conversion. It's insulated and comes with a bed, making it ready for adventure right out of the gate. The brown paint might not win any beauty contests, but hey, that's part of the vintage van charm. For $5,000, you're getting a well-maintained, mechanically solid adventure van with proven reliability. The seller's even open to trades in cryptocurrency, which is pretty cool. It's not a show van, but it's an honest workhorse that's ready for its next journey. 5. We're looking at a really interesting 1976 GMC Jimmy K5 on Craigslist for $8,500. And this one's got quite a story to tell. Let's get straight to it. This is a project truck that the current owner has had for about a decade, using it as their learning platform for welding and restoration. Currently, it's not running due to electrical issues with the fans and water pump switch. So right off the bat, you should know this is a project, not a turnkey vehicle. Under the hood, there's a non-original SBC 350 from the early 70s. It's paired with a 4-speed SM 465 manual transmission, you know, the one with that awesome granny gear, and an NP 205 transfer case that's reportedly shifting smoothly. The truck's sitting on half-ton 6-lug axles, likely from an 80s Suburban, with fresh 17-inch wheels and new 285 70/17 off-road tires with less than 200 miles on them. Now, let's talk honestly about the body. There's rust in the typical K5 trouble spots, bottom of front fenders, door jambs, and hood. The owner has already replaced the floor panels and rockers with new metal, and they're including extra panels if you want to redo their novice welding work. Got to appreciate that honesty. The good news, the interior's pretty solid with the original dash, no cracks, factory door panels in good condition, and high-back bucket seats up front with the original rear bench. All glass is present and intact, though the windshield has some hazing. 6. We're checking out a 1972 GMC Sierra 1500 that's popped up on Craigslist for $15,000. And I've got to say, this one's interesting. Let's dive right in. We're looking at a classic GMC with a 350 V8 that the seller says starts right up and runs great. The truck's had some significant work done, particularly with all cab rust repairs completed, and it's sporting a color-matched spray-in bed liner, which is a nice touch on that green paint. Now here's where we need to be real. While the truck looks clean, it's not quite road-ready yet. The seller's being upfront about what it needs: an alternator installation, motor mounts need to be put in, and a new dipstick needs to be installed. The good news? All these parts come with the truck. The odometer shows 100K miles but has rolled over, which is pretty common for these old workhorses. The seller mentions that with these minor repairs completed, this could be a $25,000 truck, and they're including extra parts like new plug wires, lugs, and molding. What's interesting here is the seller's situation. They're dealing with an illness and planning to increase the price once they're well enough to complete the repairs themselves. This could be an opportunity for someone who's mechanically inclined to jump in and finish these relatively straightforward repairs. At $15,000, you're getting a classic GMC that's had the major rust issues addressed, which is huge for these trucks, but needs some final mechanical attention to be truly roadworthy. The included parts make this deal more attractive as you won't have to source them yourself. 7. We're checking out a seriously modified 1970 Chevy C10 long bed that's listed for $25,000 on Craigslist, and this one's got quite the list of upgrades. Let's start with the powertrain. We've got a 350 V8 paired with a TH350 automatic transmission, a classic combo. But what makes this C10 special is the extensive list of performance and comfort upgrades. We're talking 4-wheel disc brakes. That's a big upgrade from the original drums. CPP tubular control arms, and a fully modernized brake system with stainless lines and a Leeds 9 inches booster. The engine bay's been treated to some nice upgrades too. An Edelbrock black plasma intake, wrapped Hedman headers flowing into a 3 inches exhaust with Flowmaster 40 series mufflers. Cooling's been addressed with a new aluminum radiator and dual electric fans. The stance is achieved through Western chassis C-notched frame, drop spindles, and new springs and shocks. The aesthetics haven't been forgotten either. It's rolling on staggered US Mag Dispardos with fresh rubber, new chrome bumpers front and rear, and some modern conveniences like a JVC head unit and a custom speaker console with cup holders. Now let's keep it real about the body condition. The seller's being honest. While the body is described as very straight, with good cab corners and rain rails, there is rust under the cab, specifically in the cab supports and battery area. That's something to consider in your purchase decision. 8. We're looking at something really special. A 1949 Ford F1 that's been listed for $27,500, and this one's got a touching story behind it. This is one of those rare finds where we're seeing a 74-year-old truck that's been loved by the same owner for over 3 decades. That kind of long-term ownership often means consistent care and maintenance, which is crucial for these vintage beauties. The seller mentions that this F1 runs and drives like a dream and sounds as amazing as it looks, which is exactly what you want to hear about a truck of this age. While the listing is light on specific details about modifications or restoration work, the odometer shows 5,000 miles, which is likely since a rebuild or restoration. What makes these first-generation F-Series trucks special is their iconic design. That classic post-war styling with those distinctive fenders and that bold grille that helped establish Ford's truck identity. 1949 was the first year of the F-Series, making this truck a true piece of automotive history. You can feel the emotional attachment in the seller's words when they mention being very sad about letting her go. And they're only selling because of retirement plans and relocation. Often these reluctant sales from long-term owners are some of the best finds because the vehicles have been well cared for. At $27,500, while it's not cheap, you're looking at a piece of American automotive history that appears to be in good running condition. These early F1s are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one from a long-term owner is particularly desirable. 9. We're looking at a 1978 Chevy C30 work truck listed for $4,500. And I've got to give credit to the seller for being incredibly honest about this old workhorse. This is a former Utah truck that's been serving as a landscape rig for the past 4.5 years, powered by a 350 V8 with a 3-speed manual transmission. The seller estimates it's got about 250K miles on it, though the odometer shows 40K after rolling over. Let's be completely straight here. This is a project truck with a list of issues that need addressing. The seller's transparency is refreshing, so let's break down what you're dealing with. The motor burns and leaks oil, about a quart every 3-4 weeks. The clutch needs work, U-joints need replacement, power steering box leaks, brake master cylinder has a small leak, and there's an unresolved fuel issue affecting idle. There's also some rust, being a former Utah truck, and it's running a custom homemade flatbed. But, and this is a big but, the seller has invested about $6,400 in maintenance over the past 4+ years, with receipts to prove it. We're talking new radiator, brakes all around, head gaskets, fuel system components, steering components, and all 6 tires have been replaced within the last 4 years. That's serious maintenance investment. At $4,500, you're getting a genuine work truck that needs some love, but has had significant mechanical attention. It's not pretty, it's not perfect, but it's an honest C30 that could be a solid project or continue its life as a work truck with some additional repairs. 10. We're checking out a 1971 Chevy El Camino listed for $15,000. And let me give you the straight scoop on this classic car-truck hybrid. We're looking at a black El Camino powered by a 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission. The seller's being refreshingly honest about its condition. This isn't a show car, but it's a solid driver. They've actually just proven its reliability by making the trek from Newport Beach to Moreno Valley without any issues, which is pretty impressive for a 52-year-old vehicle. Let's keep it real here. The car needs some attention. The seller's upfront about needing some body work here and there, a fresh paint job, and some carburetor work. It was originally a factory AC car, but the AC isn't currently working. The odometer shows 60,000 miles, but has rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. On the positive side, it's got good brakes, tires, and all the glass is intact. Importantly, all the trim pieces are present, which can be a nightmare to source for these classics. And there are no rips in the interior. It's got a new battery and current registration with tags, which is always a plus. At $15,000 OBO, you're looking at a running, driving El Camino that needs some cosmetic love, but appears mechanically sound with no overheating issues. These El Caminos have a strong following, and prices have been climbing for good examples. 11. We're looking at something truly special, a 1964 Chevrolet Corvair Deluxe rampside truck, listed at $24,500, and this one's a genuine piece of American automotive history. First off, if you're not familiar with the Corvair rampside, it's one of the most unique trucks ever produced by Chevrolet, featuring that innovative right-side loading ramp that gives it its name. This particular example is finished in a beautiful sky blue with a white center band and mirrors, and it's about as original as they come. What makes this truck exceptional is its documented low original mileage of just 61,510 miles, and it's been garage kept throughout its life. The seller notes it's close to rust-free, which is remarkable for a 60-year-old vehicle. It's powered by the 110 GP air-cooled flat-six engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, the proper setup for these unique trucks. The level of preservation and restoration here is impressive. The interior cab seat has been restored to original specs. It's got a new GM NOS, new old stock, radio, speaker, and antenna, showing the owner's commitment to authenticity. They've also addressed mechanical needs with a new clutch, all components replaced, restored gas tank, and new sending unit. The truck rolls on matching radial tires and comes complete with the original jack and spare. Being a California truck from Fresno and having never been exposed to harsh weather or cigarette smoke, this rampside represents one of the cleaner examples you're likely to find. 12. We're checking out this pretty interesting 1968 Ford F-250 I found on Craigslist for $6,000. Let me tell you, for a 55-year-old workhorse, this one's actually catching my eye. We're looking at an all-original 360 V8 paired with a 4-speed manual. That's the kind of classic truck combination that just makes you smile. The seller's got this listed with 106,000 miles, and honestly, that's pretty reasonable for its age. What's really grabbing my attention is that they're saying it fires right up and is ready to drive home. That's not something you hear every day with trucks from this era. The blue paint and clean Colorado title are definitely positive points, and the seller mentions it's very clean inside, which is rare for these old workhorses. Look, I'm always straight with you guys. At $6,000, considering the current classic truck market, this could be a solid deal if everything checks out as described. These 68 F-250S are getting harder to find, especially ones that are both running and driving. The fact that it's an original 360 V8 adds some real value for collectors and enthusiasts. Just remember, like with any classic vehicle, you'll want to do your due diligence. Check for rust, especially in those cab corners and bed. Make sure that manual transmission shifts smoothly, and listen for any concerning engine noises. But from what the seller's showing us, this could be a pretty sweet classic truck for someone who appreciates these old Fords. Plus, they're open to offers with that OBO, or best offer. So there might be some room for negotiation. 13. We're looking at a pretty interesting find on Craigslist, a 1968 Chevrolet C10, listed as GMC, that's asking $12,500. Let's break this one down honestly, because there's some things you'll want to know about. First off, we're looking at a desirable short bed step-side configuration, which is definitely a plus for collectors. It's powered by the original inline-six engine paired with a 3-speed manual transmission mounted on the column. A classic combination that's generally pretty reliable and simple to work on. Now let's be real here. The seller's upfront about needing rocker panels, and that's something you need to take seriously. Rocker panel replacement isn't a small job, and it could indicate more hidden rust issues that you'll want to inspect carefully. The odometer shows 20,209 miles, but on a 55-year-old truck, we're likely looking at 120,209 or even 220,209. Always something to keep in mind with classics. At $12,500, considering current market values for C10s, this price point sits in an interesting spot. These trucks have been climbing in value, especially short beds, but you'll need to factor in those rocker panels and potentially other restoration work. The fact that it drives well and has a clean California title in the seller's name are definite positives. For potential buyers, I'd recommend a thorough inspection of the frame, floor pans, and all the usual rust spots. The original straight 6 is a tough engine, but make sure to check for any oil leaks or unusual noises. These trucks are getting harder to find in original condition, but you'll want to weigh the repair costs against the asking price. 14. We're looking at a really interesting piece of American iron, a 1960 Ford F100 that's popped up on Craigslist for $5,000. Let me be completely honest with you all about this one. This is definitely what we'd call a project truck. And the seller's being upfront about that, which I really appreciate. We're looking at the original 292 V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission with the famous granny gear, a powertrain combination that's pretty desirable among vintage Ford enthusiasts. Now let's get real here. The odometer has rolled over, so we're dealing with an unknown mileage situation. But here's where it gets interesting. The seller's including a 1959 F100 parts truck and a collection of both new and used parts they've accumulated over the years. That's actually a pretty valuable addition to the package, especially if you're planning a restoration. The seller mentions it runs and drives, which is huge for a 63-year-old truck. However, they're clear about it being a drivable project, so don't expect to hop in and cruise to Cars and Coffee right away. They're selling due to medical issues, which often means the truck might have been sitting for a while. Something to keep in mind. At $5,000, considering you're getting essentially 2 trucks and a parts collection, this could be a solid deal for the right person. These early F100s have a huge following, and good examples can command serious money when restored. The 292 engine is a robust power plant, and having that 4-speed manual makes it even more appealing. 15. We're checking out this sweet 1966 Ford F100 that's popped up on Craigslist for $8,950. And I've got to say, I really appreciate how honest and detailed the seller is being about this truck. We're looking at what's likely the original 352 V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission with that classic granny gear. A solid powertrain combo for these old Fords. The seller's been transparent about the truck's history, having owned it for 15 years with professional maintenance, and even knows about the previous 15 years of ownership. That's the kind of history we love to hear about. Now let's get real about the issues because there are some. There's a scratch on the rear passenger side, a dent in the hood, and some rust spots on the tailgate and driver's door. The passenger door only opens from inside, probably a latch issue. The driver's window crank is loose, and it's got some oil and coolant leaks. Pretty typical stuff for a 57-year-old truck, honestly. But here's what's impressive. Most of the crucial systems are working well. The turn signals, wipers, gauges, lights, transmission, and glass are all operational. The truck's had some recent maintenance too, including a new starter, plugs, and battery. It's still wearing its original Ford hubcaps, which is a nice touch for authenticity. The odometer shows 10,469, but it's definitely rolled over at least once. The tires are okay for fair weather, but you'd want to replace them if you're planning any winter driving. 16. We're checking out a pretty interesting 1963 Chevrolet C10 that's listed on Craigslist for $8,500. And let me tell you, there's some cool stuff to talk about here. First off, this is a deluxe cab model with a desirable big rear window, a feature that C10 fans really appreciate. Under the hood, we've got a 238 V8 paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which is a great combination for these classic trucks. The seller's being straight up about the truck's condition, and I really appreciate that kind of honesty. Let's talk about the good and the not so good. On the positive side, it runs, drives, and tracks straight with good brakes. That's huge for a 60-year-old truck. The paint job, while from the 1970s, means it's got some character, and having an all-original interior is actually pretty special for these trucks. Now let's be real about the issues. The bed needs a complete redo, and there's rust on both sides of the hood at the drain points. A common problem area on these C10s. It's a long bed model, which typically isn't as sought after as the short beds. But hey, that means more practical hauling capacity if you're actually planning to use it as a truck. At $8,500, considering the current market for classic C10s, this price point seems reasonable for what you're getting. You've got a running and driving classic with some needs, but nothing that seems overwhelming. The clean Washington title and known mileage of 99,302 are definitely pluses. 17. We're looking at a really interesting 1972 Ford F100 that's listed for $15,000. And let me tell you, this one's got quite a story to tell. What I really appreciate here is the seller's transparency about their investment in this classic. They bought it in 2022 for $12,000 and have since poured over $10,000 into it. We're talking about nearly $6,700 in mechanical work and another $3,300 in cosmetic upgrades. That's the kind of detailed documentation we love to see. The truck's rocking a V8 with an automatic transmission, which is a comfortable combo for both cruising and daily use. It's wearing a green paint job, and while the odometer shows 14,000 miles, we know it's rolled over. Pretty standard for these old workhorses. The upgrades are pretty impressive. They've installed a custom bench seat, new steering wheel, and a modern stereo system. The interior work shows they were aiming for a nice blend of classic looks with modern comfort. This isn't just a restoration. It's been thoughtfully updated. At $15,000, let's break this down. The seller's actually asking less than their total investment, which is about $22,000 if you add up their purchase price and improvements. In today's market, where clean F100s are getting harder to find, this could be a solid deal for someone who appreciates a truck that's already had the major work done. What's really catching my attention here is that they've addressed both mechanical and comfort upgrades. That tells me this truck was built to be driven, not just shown. You're essentially getting a classic that's been thoroughly gone through with receipts to prove it. 18. We're looking at something really special. A 1972 Ford F250 XLT Camper Special that's got me genuinely excited. Let me tell you why this $15,000 listing is worth your attention. First off, this is a California truck from day one, born at the San Jose Ford plant and spent its entire life in Southern California. For us truck folks, that's like striking gold because it means we're likely dealing with a rust-free example. But wait, it gets better. We're looking at just 47,975 original miles. Yes, you heard that right. Under the hood, you've got the robust 390 V8 paired with an automatic transmission, a powertrain combo that's known for its reliability and pulling power. Being a camper special, it came with heavy-duty everything from the factory, including dual fuel tanks, which this truck still has. What's really remarkable here is that we're looking at the original paint and interior. Finding a 51-year-old truck with its factory finishes intact is increasingly rare. The blue paint looks fantastic for its age, which speaks volumes about how this truck has been cared for over the decades. The truck comes equipped with both front and rear receivers and a brake controller, so it's ready for serious towing duty. The seller mentions it runs and drives great, which is exactly what you'd hope for with such low mileage. At $15,000, considering today's market for classic trucks, especially for a camper special with documented history, original paint, and such low miles, this is actually pretty fair pricing. These F250s were built to last, and this one appears to have been preserved rather than just surviving. 19. We're checking out a 1969 Chevy truck that's popped up on Craigslist for $8,000, and I've got to be honest, the seller's listing is pretty light on details, so let's talk about what we do know. The seller mentions the truck runs and drives, and has had a lot of work put into the motor recently, which is positive, but we're not getting specifics on what kind of work was done or what engine we're dealing with. The odometer shows 30,999 miles, but on a 54-year-old truck, we can safely assume it's been around the clock at least once. What's interesting is that they mention plans for a flatbed conversion that never happened. This could be an opportunity for someone who's been looking to do a similar project, or you could keep it stock. The choice would be yours. At $8,000, we're in that middle ground where these classic Chevys typically sit when they're drivers, rather than showpieces. The clean title is definitely a plus, and it's got an automatic transmission, which makes it more accessible for daily use. Look, I've got to be straight with you all. This is one of those listings where you'll definitely want to do a thorough in-person inspection. Without more details about the truck's condition, mechanical specs, or history, you'll need to ask plenty of questions and really look it over carefully before making a decision. Could be a solid project base or daily driver depending on its actual condition, but make sure to check all the usual rust spots, mechanical components, and get a clear picture of what work has actually been done to the motor. 20. We're diving into a true American classic that's been uncovered from its hiding spot. Feast your eyes on this 1965 Chevrolet C10 truck, a genuine barn find without the barn. Let's get real though. The seller admits this beauty is in fair condition, so don't expect a pristine showroom-ready ride. But hey, that's part of the charm, right? This C10 has got character, and it's ready for someone to give it the love and attention it deserves. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 engine that's just waiting to roar back to life. The seller says it turns over, so with some TLC, you could have this classic purring like a kitten. And get this, it's got a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's right, a true old-school driving experience. Now the seller mentions that the chassis, differential and struts are in great shape, which is fantastic news. That means you've got a solid foundation to work with as you bring this 65 C10 back to its former glory. The seller had big plans for this truck, but life had other ideas. That means it's your chance to snatch up this piece of American automotive history and make it your own. And here's the best part, the seller is open to all reasonable offers.